But Max, thank you so much for the presentation. We're moving on to our next speaker, who also has an impressive record of accomplishments. Olexandra Zhyltsova is already here, and she's a senior business analyst that is specializing in IT projects. And a couple of facts about her are the fact that she's got more than 15 years in IT. Behind her back, besides business analysis, Alexandra worked in IT, product marketing and product management. And for the last 3.5 years, she's been working exclusively with the INT projects in the IT industry. And she has worked with IT solutions of various sizes and various stages, from pre-sale stage startups to enterprise-grade IT ecosystems. So without further ado, Alexandra, please take the stage.
Wow, that was really cool introduction. Thank you so much. Yeah, my name is Alexandra, that's true. And today I hope to share some experience, mostly some ideas with you as for how we are building and planning IoT software ecosystems. So a quick introduction of myself. Thank you, Victor, for quite an impressive introduction. Basically said everything, so I probably skipped this one. Just maybe a quick note that yes, for the last 3.5 already year, I work almost exclusively on IoT projects. They are very different. I used to work on pre-sales, and now I'm working like exclusively on the production teams. So it gave me several hints and notes and some ideas from different businesses and from different perspective, how an ecosystem, typically starting from the hardware core, evolve into actually being an integral ecosystem, which includes several software solutions around an efficient hardware. So I really hope to share them with you today. And here is how I suggest to structure my presentation, not to take much time and to prepare you guys for what you might expect. So first of all, I wanted to make a kind of context capturing slide to say that from our experience in Yalantis, it's pretty common situation when an IoT vendor starts with the hardware/embedded firmware ecosystem, which is almost exclusively centered around devices. I wanted to take a note what this business looks like, where we basically get money from and where do we spend it on. And as the next step, to make a kind of contrast to show how we can add more software, client-facing software to this solution ecosystem, to this mix, to open additional opportunities for generating new revenues, for generating more brand recognition, and maybe even cutting some costs. Again, not pretending to be an ultimate truth in here, but just to share some ideas from different businesses, how guys are evolving their ecosystem and what opportunities they found on the way. Working with different IoT projects inside Yalantis, I'm lucky enough to have at least one vendor who is, let's say, brave enough to share their name. We do not have such a strict NDA agreement with them, so I'm happy that I will be able to share some actual business case with you and illustrate all those ideas with some actual projects that we built together with one of our clients. And at the end, really hoped to do a kind of summary in terms of what are the risks, what are considerations that need to be basically examined by the product team, by all the stakeholders in the business when the decision to go further with expanding the ecosystem and bring in some software, this idea is taken. So let's proceed. We will start with this one slide I promised. When we're talking about the ecosystem, which is almost exclusively centered around devices, what are the main drivers in here? It's very simplified, obviously, but still. Basically, we are selling devices, meaning that we spend some money to produce each unit and we get some money when we are selling each unit. This is a per unit business, and sometimes we do spend, we make some one-time investments to develop some custom device to adjust it maybe to some specific business case. And after that, again, produce it and sell it unit per unit. And the second direction, the second branch in this business are all different kinds of maintenance and service and support contracts. So we are maintaining our devices, we make some service around them. So we basically spend money on having the support team on board, in-house support team, and we are gaining this regular service fees from this type of work. Sometimes we also might have some projects of deploying big number of our devices on site with the client, and thus it will be like per project cost and per project revenue. Very simple slide. And to take the next step, if we are to add an additional software to our ecosystem to build a kind of extended value solution, value proposition for our client. So typically, as my personal experience shows, the first step that this type of vendors usually make is to add a kind of centralized management system that will help to bring the very idea of the product from the level of one device upper to a business case, meaning that the logical entity, the unit of management would be not a single device, but it will be some logical group of devices. It will be the actual business case. It usually means a kind of remote management system which allows to see all those devices, to compose them in more complex logical entities and basically manage them. It can be for setting those devices up, for configuring them, for monitoring them, like a typical device management platform. It can be something related more to the data which those devices produce, like to aggregate this data, to pre-process this data, to process it, to build some decision-making solutions around it. So it's all about client-facing software, which considers devices as like multiple devices, groups of devices. This is a typical first step, but it's not an exclusive thing to add to the hardware software ecosystem. I will share more ideas later on. But if we consider the simple first step, we can see immediately two potential new revenue sources for the company. So the first is the software in itself can be monetized. So when we are talking about remote management, we most likely are talking about cloud solution. And cloud solutions allow us to build this very well scalable and working SaaS model. So this software might have different tiers of subscription. It does require some usually significant investment in the implementation stage. These are one-time investments. After that, the software works, it is introduced to the market, it scales pretty perfectly, usually around the globe, and brings regular revenue. Definitely, and it's important to understand the software solutions need regular support, as Max said previously. Not only architecture needs to be reviewed regularly, but also some customer issues need to be addressed. Some improvements need to be made based on how the market actually changes. So another obvious hope in here is that we hope that by introducing software, by basically introducing to the market an extended value, we will boost the device sales. So once we are basically bundling them together with some tools how to actually apply those devices to a specific business case, we hope to sell more. It goes as a bonus, so we will reuse the implementation, the software implementation cost, but we do hope to have this extra sales and thus increase the revenue. Besides these two very obvious factors, there are actually more opportunities. So I want to stress them out, again, not pretending to have some business ultimate truths, but still, based on our experience. The first opportunity is there are new partnerships that might be opened by introducing software layers, software components to this extended ecosystem. First of all, when we are selling not a set of singular devices, but also some management platforms, software platforms, actually turning these devices into some business case tools, we become more interesting for end-to-end IoT project consultants, because we are checking more check boxes in their needs list. And we are again delivering the whole business case, not just devices. Moreover, if we are talking specifically about managing larger business cases, we are start to attract such an audience as managed service providers. Those guys are potentially managing multiple big deployments, and they are interested in some reliable solutions, well tested altogether. So this is a proprietary hardware, and here is a proprietary software which is proven to work fine with this hardware. By investing a bit more, or maybe not a bit more, to be honest, into some complex features to meet the needs of this type of target audience. This is usually related. They are mostly concerned with the security. They are very sensitive to multi-tenancy of such solutions. They usually require some multi-level user permission management systems. But if we decide to do so, MSPs can be a very interesting target audience, because they mean larger amount of devices, right? And potentially these might be more interesting service and support agreements with them. Besides MSPs being like bulk customers, when we are talking about software, it's much easier to integrate software to software than to integrate hardware to third-party software. It means that we can take our extended ecosystem now and integrate it with some other IoT market players, if we are talking specifically about IoT, to create a kind of synergy. When you have software, when you have those ready APIs, it's much easier to integrate these things and create even bigger value proposition. So to the next ideas in terms of opportunities. When we are developing software around hardware, those client software solutions used to have lots of self-service features. We do want to scale the solution to attract more and more customers without proportionally scaling the support team, our accounting, our customer support engineers, our technical support engineers. We do want to serve more customers with basically the same team on board. How we make it happen? We introduce a lot of self-service features to the software, starting with some obvious self-service onboardings like registrations, providing basic billing details, business details, deployment details, and so on. We can also inbuild several self-service diagnostic troubleshooting tools. Even an automated frequently asked question checklist can cut some percentage of tech support issues and make those customers manage them themselves. Another thing is that when we're talking, for example, specifically about remote management software, we need to understand that we are providing remote troubleshooting and monitoring and management tools not only to our customers, but also to our own indoor tech team. So again, some percentage of issues of support requests now can be managed remotely without going on site to the client, which definitely saves some cost. Another interesting idea here, and actually we'll be explaining it more in an example that I have, is that having this, let's say, software wrap around the hardware, around our devices, we now can take the further step and include even more customer journey stages into what is covered by our solution. So we can integrate with the internal manufacturing, device testing, customer relationship management subsystems, and ensure that once device is manufactured, for example, it can be discoverable. Once it's sold, it is visible to the customer. Lots of things can be automated, basically, and we can automate provisioning. We can automate pre-configuration of the devices. We can automate adding those devices to our customer accounts. So it can create, after all, smoother customer experience. And again, it allows us to save some operational costs on potentially on those actions that were potentially manual before. So let's go to next opportunities I brought here today. Another type of audience that we might have is the R&D community out there. When we are producing devices, when we are producing not only devices, but also some customizable devices, devices that might be used in different business cases, or it's not even the end devices, but maybe some components that can be reconfigured, that can be composed together. We might be useful for very different market verticals and very different business cases again. And even if the vendor, the IoT vendor, is not interested at this very moment in investing in a specific business case, I don't know, maybe it's just a very narrow segment of the market, there might be some third-party enthusiastic, hopefully, R&D team which is ready to do so because it's maybe relates to their business, maybe relates to their, I don't know, hobby or something like this. And if we provide them with more flexibility, with some R&D tools, with some open frameworks, if we invest in designing flexible architectures that might allow customization, that might allow having some custom code, custom module inside, we potentially create a community which might produce even more business cases for us. Besides that, it's always good for the brand recognition, especially as we have so many enthusiastic R&D guys in education market and education sector. So it's cool. It also creates a loyal base of beta testers for all our experiments, for new projects, for new features. If we provide those guys with no access to this type of things, we might gather statistics, we might gather early feedback, which is always cool. And having, again, this software layer around everything, it allows us to capture those statistics automatically. And which is always great, again, for as some rationale for any improvements and changes. So describe several set of ideas, several set of potential directions of growth, of evolution for this ecosystem. Now wanted to illustrate it with one and only case that I'm allowed to share with you, which is always nice. So one of beloved customers of Yalantis is the Rock Wireless company. They are the Shenzhen-based IoT vendor. They're very universal, so they produce one branch of their business. They produce IoT networking devices, everything starting from gateways and down to different antennas, some signal monitors and things like that. And they have a very strong R&D branch for end devices. So they produce different sensors for a very wide set of verticals, starting from smart agriculture and down to smart healthcare, which engages IoT devices. They also produce a set of core modules, communication modules, smart hubs that basically allow to build custom IoT devices on top of some ready components, proprietary components by this company. This company is working with us for more than 3 years already. And I'm proud to say that it's not one project, it's actually the whole program already. And lots of projects are in production right now. So we're proud to say that this is a support stage for this account. So let's take a look what they have. I will start representing this case from the IoT networking branch. So everything started with us, and for this vendor, everything started with a set of smart IoT networking devices, the gateways. They were managed by proprietary firmware, and the customer, this company, brought Yalantis to implement the actual idea of the big cloud IoT network administration platform, that would allow to build IoT networks on top of this proprietary networking equipments of virtually any complexity of various sizes, allowing smart onboarding, smooth replacement of hardware if it's not working, smooth reconfiguration of the devices, rebalancing the network, troubleshooting the network, everything, virtually everything, which relates to setting up IoT network and making it work day by day was and is covered by this cloud management software. It is in production right now. It has very different subscription tiers, starting with a free one to meet the smallest enthusiast-like deployments, and up to enterprise 1,000 plus tiers, which are basically managing networks of several thousands of nodes. And nodes, I mean gateways, not end devices, gateways. So it was a success. And it was the very big first step to extend the hardware ecosystem with the software component. What we did next, we took a look at the customer journey of those companies, MSPs, enterprises, and smaller businesses who are building their IoT networks. And we took a look at how the operational tasks are organized within the REC Wireless company. What we did, we integrated with their MES and ERP systems to make sure that once the device is manufactured and tested, it is automatically pre-provisioned to our basically our cloud infrastructure. It made this device discoverable for remote management at once. We also integrated with the warehousing and order shipment processes to make sure that once a specific hardware piece is assigned and shipped to a customer, it's automatically added to the customer's account. Thus, that basically meant that once a device is shipped, it will take several weeks to be actually on site with the client, but it already can be pre-configured, so those network administrators can already start to prepare configuration, know all the technical characteristics and types and models of what they bought. Once the actual hardware is delivered, and it can be delivered not to the central office for configuration, but already on site, once these devices are connected, everything gets synchronized automatically, and basically everybody has the network already set up. So with this even more extended software hardware ecosystem, we covered some previously not covered customer journey steps, making a smoother experience for the end customers. Another thing that I wanted to share, this is just an idea. So REC Wireless board decided that this is probably not the first priority for their investments right now, but still wanted to share the direction of our thought, how the ideation worked. We looked even further to the customer journey and decided to cover that stage of planning the future IoT network. A piece of a context here, one of the key technologies that REC Wireless work with is the LoRaWAN technology, the LoRaWAN protocols. They heavily rely on radio frequency bands to transfer data. It is very cool and stable protocols for standards for multiple business cases, but it's still pretty much impacted with the specifics of the landscape, the density of building in that area. So what we decided to do is to suggest a software for those guys who are just planning to set up an IoT network in some specific area, to integrate with the vendors who provide geographical and signal coverage data, and actually help those guys to decide how many devices do they need to buy, where to locate those devices, and what are the optimal configuration for them. Definitely integrating it at the end with our IoT network management platform to capture all those configuration, to create pre-templates for configuration, and took it from there further to the customer journey. Still an idea though. So another idea to share, wanted to jump to the second branch of the Rec Wireless business. This is a branch for end devices. Again, to say Rec Wireless produces both the end devices, let's say end devices, those are ready sensors for specific usage scenarios. And they also produce multiple components and modules that allow to put together a custom IoT end device serving some specific need. They also have components which are potentially compatible with third-party solutions and other guys' solutions. What we suggested for this branch, we built a family of desktop solutions around those end devices, primarily targeting the R&D teams and prototyping teams, allowing them to configure those devices, to build a custom code around those devices, to test those devices, to have this quick prototyping tools like templates, libraries, like firmware customization, and like library of official firmware, the library of custom firmware, the results of those experiments, and so on. We also delivered a software solution for in-house Rec Wireless team, helping them to make those modules and sensors, new components available to the development community as soon as possible by basically automating the way they create those development interfaces. Lots of tell about there, we'll still proceed. Another addition to the software ecosystem around this smart and very versatile end devices. Rec Wireless produces a cloud tool for 3D industrial design for the custom end devices. So basically, it is a web-based tool which has the library of all the components Rec Wireless produces, and it allows in a drag and drop mode to compose a custom device with automatic checking of compatibility, of technical limitations, of whether the power is enough, the connectivity is done. It allows to measure the potential case and potential size of such a device, and so on. It is definitely integrated with the internal processes. So after a customer, after a simple registration onboarding process created this type of thing, they can send a pre-order form to a wireless internal system to basically ask for a proposal for manufacturing the test batch of those custom devices. And another idea was an idea there, idea here, also in the backlog, also not the first priority, but still for the general picture, wanted to share it as well. As you probably noticed, we went by the way of integrating things, not created those sporadic, very distributed areas of software, but making it a really integral solution, an integral ecosystem. So we are all about integrating those parts together. So the next idea for integration was between this IoT network management and IoT and device management branch, to make it even easier to actually build working IoT deployments, taking care about the network, taking care about end device health and visibility inside. This is actually the last slide that I have. I know that in this type of presentations, last slides are usually some very optimistic vision of the perfect future. I decided not to do that. We'll use this slide for kind of disclaimers. So what my teams personally noticed during those years of helping IoT vendors to extend their ecosystem and jump from being an exclusively hardware vendor into software/hardware vendors is that there are some pretty obvious things that at the end are not so obvious for those guys. So when the decision is made to build software around hardware, what those teams face? First of all, they discover that indeed, to manage this type of multi-platform, cross-platform solutions, some specific project and product management skills are required to make sure that nobody is blocking anybody else, that the delivery schedules of different components and new versions for firmware, for example, and cloud integration clients, they are synchronized in terms of delivery schedules, and they are synchronized in terms of vision, and all those new stakeholders that probably were never put at the same table before, everybody is heard. Those guys who are responsible for the client-facing solutions, those guys who are responsible for manufacturing of hardware, the marketing team, the sales team, they all come together and they start to discuss not only devices, but actual business cases. And it immediately means that more and more stakeholders need to be brought together. And it does require specific skills to manage this type of teams and this type of groups of stakeholders. The related idea is that it will inevitably bring new roles to this team, starting from some obvious roles like UI UX designer that probably was not there before, and some DevOps guys, like cloud security engineers guys, but also some intermediate facilitators who actually allow to capture all those different aspects of needs, of requirements, of limitations, of technical specifics together and help to make decisions on the edges of those teams. It might be architect, it might be tech leads of different directions, it might be business analyst, as I am, allowing those guys to actually come together. Then I will jump to the last one first, which might be a bit strange, but still. Those teams where different tech guys from very different tech background come together and they need to integrate between each other. It inevitably brings this team to a storming period. That's something that I observed multiple times in multiple teams, because when the hardware guys, they were doing pretty well before that, they were doing things as they like to do them, and suddenly some web development guys come and say that something needs to be reworked, something needs to be done in a different way to help those things integrate. These teams will come into a period of storming when they need to decide both some communicational flows, some technical flows, how they will actually work together and integrate. So the hardware team would probably need to come to terms with the idea that they would need to adopt things that they were doing before this moment. And the cloud guys will need to understand that sometimes hardware behaves just like the way it behaves and nothing can be done with that, and they need to find a workaround. And maybe the last idea here is that like with any type of investment, investing in the big software projects brings risks. Those are marketing risks, those are risks of wrong assumptions, like wrong assessment of the priorities from the customer perspective. It does need lots of understanding of how those business cases actually working on site, what is important for the customer, what they can live with, what they cannot live without, and so on. And whatever agile the team is, and whatever cool the stakeholder management skills of this team is, still, yes, in the core of agile, in the heart of agile, is the idea that as soon as possible, we need to provide some palpable, feasible, like something real to show to the stakeholders and preferably to some focus group to confirm that we are doing the right thing, that the final vision is correct, that the market will respond well to this something. But we need to understand when we are talking about integration with the hardware, this transmission period, this migration period will take some time. It will still take considerable investment to have something palpable to show to the target group. And when vendor decides to go with the software addition to the ecosystem, they need to understand that it will take time and investment. So it takes courage to do this type of thing. Well, On this mixed note, I will finish my presentation. Thank you. Are there any questions maybe to me?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for the presentation. I wouldn't call that not an optimistic slide, though. It sounded more like an educative slide. So thank you so much for sharing your professional experience in crafting IoT solutions. Yeah, we have actually got two questions because one of them has already been covered in this particular slide at the end. So the first sounds like this. How can software solutions for proprietary IoT hardware be designed for maximum customization and flexibility? Well, I guess preparing for the future scalability and customization. So is there any kind of a trick silver bullet or maybe a set of practices so that you could craft a really customizable and flexible software solution for proprietary software?
Cool question, quite an elaborate question. Thank you, whoever asked it. I would say that this question not that much to me, but maybe to Max most. But if I got the question right, so what I observed with the projects of my clients, the first step is designing a flexible architecture, the one that supports actually some custom module and custom code inside. It will require developing kind of universal interfaces, set of commands that this development community can follow to deliver the customizable parts. This is if we are talking about customization right on the embedded level and bringing it further to the development community with the software tools. If we are talking about the software being customizable, it's all about like a general universal tools for customization for software. So it will very heavily depend on the type of software and the type of project at hand. Basically, yeah, it's very hard to do kind of universal, to make a kind of universal suggestion. See on the project at hand, decide what type of business cases you want to cover with this software, see what's common, see what's different in those business cases, and prioritize those business cases, and based on that, develop the best features. Really hard to say how to customize the software without knowing what the software is.
Yeah, no problem with that. Yes, you actually have to think of the, I guess, planning it properly, right? And creating the perfect roadmap, just as you mentioned, the fact that you have to consider all of the business cases, and those will always be specific to specific business goals of this particular business, right? So thank you so much for the answer. Got one more. And it's about the approaches for ensuring cross-platform compatibility of software developed for proprietary IoT hardware. Are there any specific kind of approaches for this kind of cross-platform compatibility?
Again, not sure what is the cross-platform stands for, but if it's cross-platform in terms of like client platforms, then there are, again, a set of universal best practices how to build a cross-platform compatible software. If we are talking about compatibility with different models and types of the hardware.
Yeah, I guess it's more about this one.
Okay. So when we're building an integral ecosystem of proprietary software around proprietary hardware, we have this blessing of have the hardware team actually on board with us. So what we can do, we can talk to them, we can plan that perfect architecture, we can sit and brainstorm on what are the potential further developments in terms of the hardware to make it easier to build some kind of universal modules, universal interfaces, universal mechanisms for bigger standard features like monitoring, like reporting, like alert rising, to make sure that the hardware team with all the new models for the hardware will follow the same scheme that we agreed together. And basically with any new developments on any side, whether it's a new feature on the software side or whether it is a new model and hardware capability on the embedded side, to bring this to the attention of the whole team. And if it's needed to basically update this common vision of mechanisms, of standard flows, of like standard interfaces. But yeah, anyway, if we're talking about even the bigger cross-platform compatibility, let's say I have a very old iPhone and I want to configure a Bluetooth NFC activated device at hand, and I want to be sure that it will be activated, it will be configured, it will answer to the commands that I sent with this interfaces in a kind of standard manner. That's why we're actually developing the software solutions. So when you have a proprietary software solution around your proprietary hardware, you are taking care of those compatibility things. So you just make sure your software is compatible with all those, say, client platforms. And it's the task for the software development team to ensure that whatever device you have, whatever browser you use, everything will go as planned. Not sure if I answered this question.
No. It was a perfect answer, actually. Thank you so much. I'm sure there will be more questions to come, but unfortunately we're pressed for time. So I just wanted to thank you so much for the presentation. It was really insightful, as well as the Q&A session. And we will actually round up right now. But before we do that, I just wanted to let you know that if you guys listen to this live stream, or maybe you could be listening to it already in a recording, we will also send it to you. You feel free to reach out to us, specifically to Alexandra and specifically to Max, who was the first speaker, on our LinkedIn channels, I mean on our LinkedIn accounts, as well as feel free to reach out to us to our main LinkedIn page, or specifically to me on LinkedIn for any questions you have. Also, we have an email, hello@yalantis.com, which you can use to reach out to us and ask more questions about creating solutions for proprietary IoT hardware, building our complex architectures, upgrading the architectures specifically for IoT solutions or in general, because those could be different ones. Feel free to do that. Also, feel free to ask questions later on to our inbox, and feel free to visit our website. And for those of you who are actually already working on their solutions and are struggling with planning them, we have something like an extra value that we would like to give to you before we round up our recording and the live stream. You can hit this link that I'm sending here in chat, and you can also receive it to your email box for all of those who were registered. All of you guys will receive it. And if you have a question or would like to request a plan for the architecture assessment, or you're struggling with road mapping your IoT solution, say you are at an initial stage or you are almost at the end before pitching it to an investor or to a group of investors, would be glad to help you out with those to get a bit more detailed into it and suggest some of the improvements. Feel free to reach out to us via this link. We will also send it to you to your inbox, as I said before. And also feel free, as I said, to ask more questions, because we are eager to answer them. We know that it's hard to cover all of them in a single recording. Thank you so much for listening to these presentations and for coming to our webinar. It was a pleasure to have you guys here and hope you enjoyed it. Have a great time.